Have you ever wondered what would happen if the Invincible War lasted more than 10 days? And what happens when Conquest arrives during the war? In the main timeline, the Invincible variants quit after just 3 days and demanded their reward from Angstrom, who instead trapped them in the Void Dimension. But in this what if, Angstrom has a much bigger plan. Instead of unleashing all the variants at once, he splits them into 2 waves. The first is meant to wear Earth down. The second contains his strongest and most dangerous variants, including Sinister Mark, Omni Mark, Viltrumite Mark, and Prisoner Mark. With everything in place, Angstrom launches the first wave. Angstrom begins his plan, opening his portals and sending Wave 1 through with one goal: cause as much destruction as possible and make the entire world fear and hate Invincible. At the time, Mark and Eve are relaxing at home when Eve gets a call from Stronghold Penitentiary, which is under attack. The prison is calling Invincible Incorporated for help, telling Adam Eve that Invincible himself is the one attacking them, which stuns her. Mohawk Mark is tearing through Stronghold Penitentiary, mocking it for being a prison, when Adam Eve and Main Mark arrive to stop him. Mohawk Mark first mistakes Invincible for an evil variant and doesn't understand why he's in his area of attack. But Invincible takes one look at the destruction and rushes at him, and the two start trading blows. Mohawk Mark matched Main Invincible in strength even in the main timeline, and here the same thing happens. He starts counterpunching Invincible, and both of them are going at each other full force because the loser dies in this fight. Just then, Powerplex arrives, and with his help, Adam Eve jumps in to help, and they manage to knock back Mohawk Mark, giving Invincible the chance to uppercut him, and then unload a bloody round of punches on the strongest variant of Wave 1 until he dies. Cecil contacts Eve and Mark and explains the situation. 10 evil Invincible variants have attacked Earth. Most of them right now are in America. He splits them into strong ones like Mohawk Mark, Hoodvincible, and weak random variants. These marks are moving fast and destroying anything and everything with no real goal aside from causing destruction. Cecil is confident they have a chance because he watched the Reaniman kill Flax Invincible, so he sends Mark, Eve, and the Guardians after the variants in America, while the other heroes and all his Reanimen handle the rest outside the country. Mark is badly injured, but he still flies off to help the citizens, and he and Eve manage to take down Hoodvincible. The fight leaves Invincible even more injured and bloodied, so Adam Eve forces him to a doctor, where he spends 2 days recovering before returning to the war. It is day 4 of the war, and Mark has finally recovered fully and decides to team up with the remaining heroes to finish off all the variants. He is told about the death of Darkwing and Rex, and he regrets being in the hospital and wasting time while innocent people and heroes were dying. Not to mention, he never considered Darkwing a real hero. But in the end, Darkwing saved a lot of people by taking out one variant himself and sacrificing his own life. What Mark didn't know was that the worst part of this war hadn't even started yet. By day 7 of the war, they managed to kill off all variants and help rebuild Earth. Mark, even though he is tired and injured, still decides to help people instead of getting treated. But this would later turn out to be a big mistake, as Wave 2, which was Angstrom's main wave to destroy Invincible, was about to arrive. Day 8 of the war starts, and Wave 2 of variants enters the main universe through portals. Angstrom himself arrives with robots to take part in the main Invincible's downfall and to cause as much destruction as possible. As devastating as these variants were, an even greater threat was already making his way toward Earth. Invincible tries his best to stop them, but they humiliate the hell out of him, and Day 8 brings more destruction than the planet had seen in all of the first 7 days combined. Here, at night, Angstrom takes the variants back for rest and again launches them the very next day. This continues until day 10. Here, Mark is super injured. A lot of heroes and civilians have died, but they still have a chance to stop all this if Mark manages to kill the stronger variants one by one. But the problem is, all of these stronger variants come in duos or trios. Angstrom's plan was working perfectly. Unfortunately for him, Conquest was never part of that plan. But on day 10, Mark was about to get the chance to kill one of them because Conquest arrives on Earth, and some of the variants like Viltrumite Mark and Prisoner Mark know him and are not very interested in fighting him. Conquest here gets confused, seeing so many marks, and seeing the bad state of Earth, he gets angry at Invincible and his variants, as Earth was supposed to be part of the Viltrum Empire. He launches an attack on the variants and manages to kill 2 of the weaker ones. Seeing this, Angstrom is shocked and orders Viltrumite Mark, Sinister Mark, and Omni Mark to attack Conquest together. They refuse at first, since 2 variants just died in front of them, and they don't want to be next. But Angstrom lies to them, claiming the survivors of Wave 1 are off enjoying the universes he gave them as part of the deal, when in reality, every last one of them was dead by day 7. Then he sweetens it with a new offer. Whoever survives until day 15 gets an entire extra universe to rule, on top of the one he already promised. That's enough to win them over, and Viltrumite Mark tells the others how Conquest is a prideful, monstrous warrior, so if they take him one at a time and let the other 2 sneak attack, they've got a real shot at killing him. Here, Omni Mark becomes the bait and goes on to attack Conquest. He tries his best, but is not able to match the strength of the beast Conquest is. Conquest here starts toying with Omni Mark and lets his guard down, which is the exact moment the other 2 marks were waiting for, and flying at full speed, they punch Conquest from each side, stunning him and making him bleed. Taking full advantage of this, all 3 start simultaneously attacking him and landing slashes on his chest and neck, making Conquest bleed heavily. They think they killed him and head back to kill off the main mark, but just then Conquest rises up. He was just knocked out for a few seconds and is really pissed off right now. Sinister Mark attacks him and lands a few punches, but Conquest just takes it all, and then takes Sinister Mark into the sky and then crashes on the ground with him. Sinister Mark gets injured heavily, but is the toughest Mark and is able to still stand, impressing Conquest. But just then, Viltrumite Mark and Omni Mark start attacking him, but Conquest manages to knock both of them back and starts punching Omni Mark brutally and kills him. The scene changes and we see Main Mark, who was recovering while the variants were fighting Conquest, and now has enough strength to take on one strong variant with the help of the Immortal and Adam Eve. Here they get to know Prisoner Mark, one of the 3 strongest marks, is nearby causing destruction, so they all head to him. Some variants try to interfere, but Cecil's Reaniman and other heroes, including Oliver, are taking care of them. Here, Angstrom warns Prisoner Mark of Invincible's arrival, and Invincible, who thought he was going to do a surprise attack on Prisoner Mark, gets attacked himself by Prisoner Mark in a surprise attack. Prisoner Mark goes straight for a killing blow, driving his hand at Invincible's chest like a blade, but Invincible catches it just in time and forces it back. Just then, the Immortal swings in and lands a punch on Prisoner Mark, but it barely phases him. Prisoner Mark just grins, mocking the Immortal for how weak he is, like that punch was nothing more than a tap. Just then, Adam Eve grabs him with her powers and slams him into the ground, and both Invincible and the Immortal crash on him, giving him some serious damage. Invincible comes up with a plan and asks Eve and the Immortal to hold off Prisoner Mark in the air. The Immortal struggles to do that and gets brutal punches from Prisoner Mark while he tries to hold him, but Adam Eve uses her power to hold him off, and they manage to hold him off for a few seconds, which is enough time for Mark to go back some kilometers and then rush at full speed, going through Prisoner Mark and the Immortal at the same time, tearing both apart. Luckily, the Immortal survives this because he is of course immortal, and unless you completely destroy his head and body, he will be fine. On the other hand, as Conquest manages to kill off Omni Mark, both Viltrumite Mark and Sinister Mark rush at him and try to do more damage on his already big wounds, trying their best to bleed him out to death. But Conquest manages to hold his own for a pretty good time, and manages to stab Viltrumite Mark with his hand, but Sinister Mark uses this opportunity to stab Conquest through his heart, and manages to kill him right there. Here, both Sinister Mark and Viltrumite Mark are injured and tired, and Viltrumite Mark will die if they don't get him medical aid. But no matter how many times they call Angstrom's name, he doesn't arrive. But just then, Invincible and Adam Eve arrive along with other heroes like Powerplex. Invincible flies towards Sinister Mark, and they both start throwing punches and kicks at each other, trying their best to kill the other. One is doing this to rule, and the other is doing this to save. Viltrumite Mark tries his best to fight back, and manages to kill some weak heroes like Two Punch Man, but Powerplex and Adam Eve are long-range fighters, and deal him heavy damage from long range, and as soon as he tries to come near them, Oliver knocks him back. Here, due to his weakened and injured state, Viltrumite Mark is not able to fight back anymore, and Powerplex uses his full power, creating a giant explosion, and manages to burn Viltrumite Mark to a crisp and end him right there. On the other hand, Invincible and Sinister Mark are going at each other, together. But luckily, Conquest managed to stab Sinister Mark in their fight too, and Mark lands brutal blows on that spot. Sinister Mark tries to get to Invincible's head, telling him how he has killed millions of people, not just on his planet, but on Invincible's planet too, and mocks him for not being able to save anyone. Mark knocks him back, and just then Angstrom arrives and tries to sneak attack Mark, but Mark has had enough. He tears Angstrom apart and crushes his skull, then asks Powerplex to burn his body. Sinister Mark thinks he got in Invincible's head and punches him, but Invincible has entered Viltrumite mode now, and grabs Sinister Mark's neck and starts choking him out. He decides to give Sinister Mark a slow and painful death for all the innocents he killed in both his own world and main Invincible's world. Sinister Mark tries to beg him for mercy, but Mark is not in any mood for that and chokes him to death, ending the Invincible War with Sinister Mark and Angstrom's death on day 12 of the war. This war had done 10 times the damage the 3-day war in the main timeline did, as Conquest arrived during this time and the variants survived for longer and didn't immediately betray Angstrom. Mark, along with the remaining heroes and Cecil's help, tries his best to bring the world back to normal, which only took a month or two in the main timeline, but will take at least a year in this one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more fire content. Peace out.